In the closing circle, one word that I heard several times was convergence.
Convergence, yeah. Well, we did mostly open space today. Yesterday we had some more structured things to kind of help people get to know each other. Today, I spent a lot of time with one of the more business-oriented people, and we looked at the history of management. And we discovered there were all sorts of interesting things that we never really knew about. All these things were happening, and the business people were saying this, the IT people were saying this, there were HR people saying this, and all of a sudden, oh my God, this must have been what it felt to discover America. There are other continents out there, and there are people on them, and they're thinking the same things that we are. And so a lot of what we're doing now is creating lines of communication between all these people with very similar ideas that have evolved in completely different contexts or completely independent context. And so the idea that software people and business people have the same ideas, this is almost a shocking concept, because when I think about my work, in large corporations, the business people really do seem to be on another planet with different values and different rules of engagement than the IT people. But what we're saying is that the people who are thinking about, well, what are the ways that work effectively, they're discovering the same patterns and the same interactions. And if we could all apply these patterns, then we'd all be much more effective and much happier. And looking at who focus on bottom line issues, that is corporate leadership, they're also discovering that if you delight your customers, they're going to be happier and you're going to be happier, and strangely enough, your bottom line is going to be happier. And so, all these things are coming together. And so so we're saying that, hey, first of all, let's kind of recognize that we have these common things together, and create some sort of identity so that people can say, oh yes, we're doing X, whatever X is. We haven't really quite figured out what the name for X is, but we're starting to get an idea of what it is. And so that's kind of our basis for moving forward.
What comes out of this convergence?
What comes out of this convergence? Well, most immediately, I think what we've got is a group of people who've said, yes, there is a convergence, we do have commonalities. We haven't quite identified what they all are yet, and as I say, we haven't given anything a name yet, but we're excited about this, we're motivated about this, we want to take it forward. And I think that's the biggest commitment that came out of it, is the group says, we're happy to work together, we want to work together, and on the one hand, we're going to meet again, to help make this change happen. And on the other hand, we're also going to start opening up so that we can get other people involved, because change is not something where you say, here we are, this is where we want to be, everybody go there. It's more of a, oh yes, well, we want to make something happen, so let's try to catalyze some things and see where that takes us, and that will catalyze other things. And I think that there's a good chance that this kind of approach, as it becomes more recognized, it will become more viral and it will eventually spread by itself. One of the interesting challenges that we had, at the beginning it was very difficult to convince people to come. As we got closer to the date and we started using up our supply of hotel rooms, all of a sudden we didn't have room for everybody who wanted to come. At some point we started tweeting about it. I'm not sure if that was a good thing or not, and other people found out about it and wanted to come, and there was just no space for them. And there were some people who couldn't come, and it really broke our hearts. And even now there's some tension between the group wanting to form as a group and try to define a mission and try to define how to move forward, and other people who are thinking, oh yes, we should turn on the X-ray machine while this is happening, and spend our time on the keyboards and tweeting. And so this is a tension. Well, all of these things are things that we didn't really expect. And so I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think what we want to do is, community and networking is a big part of what we're doing. And the provisional name that we've chosen for ourselves, we don't really have a name yet, so for the moment we're just going to call ourselves the STOS Network. And I think that brings in the idea of people coming together and communicating with each other. And STOS is kind of a funny name. The Stoss, S-T-O-S-S in German, means to push, and Anstoß is like to give something an impulse. Okay, and so we're trying to give an impulse, we're trying to facilitate this tipping point, is one of the phrases that we came up, and that's what Stoss is all about, is kind of giving an impulse. but we're not trying to, we're not trying to be Moses on the mountain. We're not trying to create a new dogma. We're not trying to create a new elite. We're trying to be catalysts, but where the action is really going to happen is going to be someplace else. It's going to be in the businesses that are saying, oh yeah, we want to be healthier environments. We want to be better for our customers. We want our customers to like us and recommend us. And that's where the action is going to happen, is these companies recognize, here is a place that we can go. If we go there, we'll all be happier. And these are the people who are going to be doing the change, because it's going to be a change for their own improvement. It's not our change. So another thing we've talked about is like being custodians. Okay, it's not about us, it's about everyone else, but we're kind of trying to help it along a bit as this happens.
Tell me something that was memorable for you at Stowe's.
Well, I had a real aha or eureka moment today. We did an open space session on the history of modern management, okay, and so we looked at craftsmanship back in the 1870s, which gave way to mass production in the 1910s and 1920s, the rise of the decentralized enterprise a la General Motors, how that kind of organization started having problems in the 70s and is really failing seriously today. And one of the things we discovered, there was kind of a pattern, and that pattern started with, there was a technological innovation which made mass production possible. That was the ability to machine hardened steel. And that technological change made a management change possible. Okay, that management change created some very successful companies, first Ford, then General Motors. These in turn produced pilgrims going to Detroit to see how they did it. They said, we want to do this too. Okay, so then you had this whole, on the one hand you had consultants, on the other hand you had business schools disseminating this information. And in the case of General Motors, their style of management became extremely successful and is kind of the reference for how we manage corporations today. This process happened again with Toyota, with what we now call lean management, starting around the 40s or 50s. And so what we're saying is, or what we're seeing is that there's another round of this technological change, producing management change, producing potential for the organizations. Back in the mid to late 1980s was when Xerox PARC was developing Smalltalk and creating the first interactive development environments and rapid prototyping, and this technological change made much shorter feedback cycles possible. This gave birth to extreme programming. This was also the start of Scrum and various other agile methodologies, and this made it possible for organizations to become much more responsive to their customers than they were before. And some companies, by being extremely responsive, have become quite profitable. Okay, and I think Salesforce, Google, Apple are some of the companies that come to mind through delighting their customers and rapidly reacting. This has been created a tremendous business opportunity for companies to dramatically improve compared to their competition. And I think we're now getting into the phase, I think this pattern is repeating, that we're starting to disseminate. And so the question is, well, how do we get the message out? People can start doing this. The business schools, it's now time for the business schools to start getting interested in this, to say, well, how can we make this, how can we take this information to everybody? So instead of being an exotic, these strange computer people doing agile, this is just the way we do business, with a healthy respect for people.
So 2 days of talking about this, how do you feel at the end of Stowe's?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we started out, there were 4 of us at the beginning. We invited people. Basically, we prepared the first day and moderated the first day. And at the end, about 3/4 of the way through the first day, we then handed the moderation over to the group, or handed the ball over to the group, and the group picked up the ball. They organized themselves for the last hour of the first day and all of the second day, and they're now organizing themselves and doing work and making press releases and websites and Dropboxes and all kinds of wild and crazy things to make this stuff happen again. So in a sense, the spark, has at least ignited some kindling, and there's a possibility that this warm flame is going to grow more and spread and, really catalyze a lasting change in management, which is what we set out to do. So I think we're right where we had hoped to be 3 months ago when we said, let's try to bring these people together.
Well, you've earned a good rest. Thanks for your time.
Wellness. Thank you very much, and thank you for doing these interviews and helping us get the spark out into the world.